Hey guys, how's it going? So I'm doing a little review on 2014 Trek CrossRip Comp. This is the equivalent to the new Trek CrossRip 2, I guess they call it. They changed the way they label them. But there's a regular CrossRip Comp, and then I think the CrossRip Elite or Limited or something. So this is like the second tier, second level version of it. I got it used and I really only bought it. It's a commuter bike. I bought it to do a bike tour down the Great Allegheny Passage, and that was earlier this month. And now I plan on selling it because I really don't have any reason to have it. Winter's coming up. I did bike commuting for the last couple years, and so I kind of feel, I have a car now. I don't really want to do too much bike commuting this winter. I also have this bike, so I could just take that on nice days. So as the CrossRip goes, it's got a triple crankset, which is really helpful for getting up those hills, especially if you've got this thing fully loaded. It's got the rack mounts, and it's got additional fender mounts, so you can put fenders and racks on here at the same time. I've had this thing loaded up with about 60 pounds on the rack, 60, 70 pounds, all in the back. On my trip down from Pittsburgh to Hagerstown, Maryland, that was all, a lot of it was wet, and it was all basically single track, flat. The C&O Canal, if you've ever heard of it, it has a trail that runs along it, and that trail's all flat, but some sections they drive on, so there's potholes. This thing beasted through all of that during the rain. Basically, going down the C&O Canal, we had it was two trenches, filled with water for about 70 miles. It rained all day, and this just having constant water splashing on this, I thought I would end up with bad bearings or something by the end of it, because we had 6 or 7 hours to go through that, and there's no noise or anything. I sprayed it all out, got all the dirt out of it, and there's no noise, no cracking, nothing weird coming from the bottom bracket, anything like that. So it held up pretty well. As far as performance goes, this is, if you compared a bike like this to, say, a bike like this is kind of a Mustang, and this is, I don't know, like an alpaca or a mule. You know, it's not going to get there really fast, but it's going to be steady, and it's going to get there. It's going to be reliable. So I picked it up for a little over $400. It's probably worth only $400 in its current condition because it is pretty nicked up. The guy before it, he had taken it commuting for a couple years, so it's got about 5,000 miles on it and a bunch of just marks all over the sides, but mechanically it's in sound condition. There's no strip nuts. All these rib nuts or whatever they're called, they're in good condition. It's even got the original tires, which the one tire is about in need of replacement, but the other one's still got even a little bit of tread on it. These tires usually last 5,000-7,000 miles, so if he had these original tires on it the whole time, which I think he did, he probably only got about 5,000 miles on it. You've got these top bar brake levers, and I actually had to get used to this because I've never ridden a bike with these on here. I'm used to kind of putting my knuckles up like this and riding, and having these here, I banged my knuckles a bunch of times, learned not to do that anymore. It does make it easier if you're riding one-handed and you need to slow down. It can be kind of awkward to keep your hand over here when you're trying to slow down, to having your hand on top, and for whatever you might be doing on a bike with your other hand, it seems easier to control. It's got Claris shifters. It is 8-speed, and the Claris, it's got a Claris setup, Claris shifters, Claris derailleur, yeah, both derailleurs. Claris is a step below Sora, and I can't remember if, I think this is the new line. think Sora's been around for a little while, but I might be totally wrong on that. But Claris is a little bit below Sora. So I used to have a cyclocross bike, 9-speed Sora, and I never had any problems with shifting. This one I had some problems at the beginning, but I think I've got it tuned now that I pretty much get smooth shifts all the time. Haven't really had any problems with the front derailleur at all. It was everything worked out. I mean, this thing was covered in mud. It was completely filthy, and didn't have any shifting problems through 60, 70 miles of being covered in mud. So I did break one spoke, and with having like 70, 80 pounds on here, I guess there's me, which I'm about 200 pounds, so not a super light rider, and the rack was holding probably about 50, 60 pounds. So I did end up breaking one spoke. I noticed that on the last day. Luckily I had this spoke with me. I replaced it, and the wheel didn't come out of true too much either, so as soon as I replaced it, tightened it up, kind of fixed itself, so that wasn't really too much of a problem. Luckily I brought that spoke. The brakes are mechanical. They're not hydraulic. They work pretty well. They're the BB5, Avid BB5s. You know, I'll say they saved me in the wet conditions, but as far as their performance compared to other disc brakes, it seems really hard to get them completely tight, like actually properly tightened up without them scraping against the discs at all, the brake pads. So it's kind of hard to adjust them, but for the most part it's still nicer to use than having regular V-brakes or cantilever brakes or whatever. I guess I didn't say it, but it is an aluminum frame. You know, I think it weighs out to about 25 pounds or so. So it's a bit heavier than my other bike over there. But it's, you know, it's a workhorse. It's meant for commuting, meant for some light touring. I could probably have taken it on a much longer bike tour. It does have front mounts as well. This is a carbon fork, which is pretty sweet. I'm not really into the whole shiny green, you know, that's kind of whatever to me. It's a little too flashy. Some people have used this in not necessarily racing cyclocross, but as like a gravel grinder. I think it would make a really good gravel grinder as well. It's a 54 centimeter frame. It seems because the head tube's a bit bigger and it's more of an upright position, it almost fits more like a 55 or 56 centimeter frame. For me, I ride two 54s. This is a 54. This one over here is also 54. When I compare the two, this one seems a lot smaller than this one does. This one I rode with zero wrist pain over 300 miles in 6 days. No wrist pain, no hand numbness or anything like that. I actually didn't have these flat pedals on. I had some SBD pedals, so that made it a little bit easier. You know, overall, it's a really good bike. If you can pick up this bike for $350, $450, depending on the condition of it, you've gotten a really good deal. I'm hoping to sell it for what I bought it for, since I re-greased the headset, I re-greased the rear bearings, and kind of cleaned up everything down here, the whole drivetrain. Hoping to sell it for about as much as I got it for, since I only bought it a few weeks ago. I replaced this bar tape recently, and underneath I noticed it has these ISO pads, or ISO zone pads. I'm not really sure what it's called, but basically they're just extra padding to keep your hands from hurting so much. So that's probably what really helped me out during that long bike trip, these paddings under here, and those are really nice. I probably want to get them on my other bike because it just feels really good. Yeah, so that is the Trek CrossRip Comp 2014 edition. Overall, it's a good bike. It's not gonna win any races. You know, it's not really meant for that. As a commuting bike, the guy before me used it for quite a while for commuting. I personally am not going to do that much bike commuting, so I am going to get rid of it. But I'm going to do a little bit of gravel riding before I do. I would recommend it. It's a great bike. It's held up. Trek always seems to put out good product, even though sometimes it can be a little bit pricey. But they always do seem to put out some great bikes. So if you like this video, go ahead and click the like button and subscribe if you'd like, and thanks for watching.